Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Industry Perspectives. I'm your host, Ainsley Bowden, and this episode will mark a little bit of a departure from past episodes. As part of the ongoing initiative for Season Gaming titled The Good in Gaming, where we're highlighting content, creators, and charitable work that focuses on the positives of gaming and how they can help people with anxiety, depression, loss, and other things, I wanted to speak to Jay Sims. Now, Jay's son Mason was born premature, ended up sadly passing away at 2 years old. But Mason's memory serves as kind of an inspiration for the Extra Life team that we both play for, which is currently, as we record this, number one in the world. So I wanted to speak to Jay to hear not only his story about dealing with the loss of his son, but some good stories around how Extra Life and the gaming community came around his family to help in that dire time of need. Let's get to it. All right, so speaking with Jay Sims, and funny enough, Jay, this is the first time we're talking. So how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Appreciate getting the chance to talk with you. It was neat seeing your Twitter post where you had mentioned an article you had written, and I read it, and I was like, yeah, I think I replied. I was like, we should talk.
Yeah. We kind of, I mentioned that I was doing kind of a not an update, but a new article based on some other things. And I know I wanted to reach out to you based on the Extra Life team, which we'll get to.
I see we're both rocking the shirts.
Yeah. I had to put one on. Yeah. So, and I've got the medals. The medals used to hang right here, but I put up this new kind of SG plate, and now I don't have anywhere to hang them. I got to find a place.
Yeah, so. I got one on either side of my fireplace because I've got a silver one from year before last and a gold from last year. So
sweet. Yeah, that's what I did. I started silver the first year, and I've gotten gold past two, which it's been really fun. But
awesome.
For those who may not aware of why we're talking, so you and I both play for an Extra Life team called Mason's Little Warriors. Mm-hmm. And as you just rightly informed me, this is supported by a large group of streamers and community members, as well as a big group titled Good for Gaming, which is a Twitter account, Good for Gaming, which kind of supports a lot of positivity and charitable work across the industry, which is a huge focus for what this new initiative for Season Gaming is going to be about as well. So, but I wanted to speak to you because, and shout out to Dave Kinghorn, who runs the Good for Gaming account and kind of manages everything to do with the Mason's Little Warriors Extra Life team, as you said. Mm-hmm. So, which is, as big as it is now, right now, number one in the world as we speak and record this, which is awesome.
Crazy, man. Blows my mind.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, but I want to speak to you because really, your son Mason was the inspiration for the team. And kind of the behind it, right? And kind of what got you into this line of streaming and charitable work as well. So, I thought rather than just put a quick quote in the article from you, we could just talk for a few minutes around, what you experienced at that time, what it's like to go through that type of thing. Because I know we both share, whether a little dissimilar or not, very tough thing to go through for families and parents. So, whatever you feel comfortable kind of sharing or background on it would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So like backing up, like really, really, really far, like about a decade ago, I was really into podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time, especially with my work. I was out outside a good bit, taking field notes for engineering and surveying work and stuff. And so I always had podcasts in my ears. And one of the podcasts that I listened to at the time was called Everyday Gamers. And, I listened to those guys and, as a listener, I don't know if you can relate to this, but, a lot of times you just want to weigh in and be like, man, I wish I could give my 2 cents. And so I kind of invited myself on one day as a guest. And, I really gelled with Eric, the host over there, and then one of the co-hosts, Chris. And they're like, well, you want to come on next week? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? And so I kind of just stayed for almost a decade and podcasted with those guys for years and years. And so it was neat because at the time we were kind of part of a kind of a network of podcasts, not an official network per se, but just like, hey, I was listening to these guys over at Open Forum Radio. Go check out their show. And so we just had a really good group of hosts and co-hosts that just formed a really tight gaming podcast community.
Yeah.
And Dave, a RoboPig who founded Good for Gaming, he was kind of in that mix too. And he's like, yeah, we need to like expand this beyond podcasting and just have like a network for gamers that just are all about being positive and supporting one another.
Yeah.
And so he kind of started Good for Gaming from that. And, Everyday Gamers, we kind of ran our course and recorded like our final episode, I'd probably say 6 months ago. But in the course of that decade, I've got 4 kids. I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and my youngest just turned 9. And as you alluded earlier, my youngest is a twin. His name's Gray and his brother is Mason, hence the name of our Extra Life team. Yeah. So the twins were born in December of 2013, okay. And it was a high-risk pregnancy, weekly doctor's appointments. And, at one point early on in the pregnancy, we had, my family had a physician be like, yeah, one's probably going to make it, one's probably not.
Oof.
And so, at the time he's like, you might want to consider selective reduction to give the second one a better shot, or the first one, I guess. And we're like, no, we're not about that. So we, went through everything, and the twins were born, like I said, in December of 2013. And it was rough, man. Like, Gray was 2 pounds 7 ounces. Oof. Mason was 1 pound 6 ounces. He had to have like bowel surgery at a week old because of an obstruction. Had several other surgeries, and so they, just because of their size, were in the NICU for a couple months.
Yeah,
Gray had come home in February, but Mason had so many complications, health complications. He didn't come home from the hospital for 8 months and a day. It was August before he ever got home. I think it was August 14th of 2014. So when Mason came home, it was awesome because, he was finally healthy enough to be here, but like his bowels never worked quite right. So they had put in a G tube, but that didn't really work like they had hoped for. So eventually they put in a central line that just goes directly in. And so all of his nutrition would come via IV. Wow. And unfortunately, anytime you have something like that with plastic going in the body, it's prone to infection. So we kind of went through this cycle of, Mason would get sick, spike a fever. We'd take him to Children's Hospital of Alabama, and, they'd see if it was bacterial or viral or staph or, yeast. I mean, there was like one of a billion things, multiple. And so they'd, either give him antibiotics or whatever. And we kind of went through this cycle where he'd get healthier, be good enough to come home. And so he'd come home, and that'd be great. He got to go to the beach, once, I think. And so we got to make like a lot of awesome memories. And then after the twins turned 2, right after Christmas, he got sick again. And he got real sick this time. And so, he was in the hospital. They had to put him on a ventilator. And, they said, well, we can try to take him off, see how he tolerates it. And, we tried that a couple of times, and each time it just kind of got worse and worse and worse. Mm-hmm. And eventually, we kind of knew that he probably wasn't going to get to come home again. And so he passed on January 29th of 2016. And, it was definitely one of the worst times, if not the worst time of my entire life, as I'm sure you can relate. Mm-hmm. But through all that, the gaming and the podcasts and the Extra Life, the Good for Gaming community, like all these gamers that I'd known for years, just from like podcasting and playing Destiny or whatever with online, like they rallied around my family like I could never even imagine, whether it was, financial support for medical bills. Because I mean, when you think December 2013 to January of 2016, it was basically hitting my out-of-pocket maximum every single year because of all the, expenses and stuff.
Can imagine.
but they would, say like, hey, we want to help you out. And so, I got humble real quick. And
Sure.
I was like, hey, I appreciate everything. And, not only seeing how, they've supported my family, but like even in the midst of all that, other people would be going through something, whether it was health related or, mental health or, relatives or deaths in the family. It was just a constant positive, support. And so that was really neat to be a part of. And then kind of, on the backside of all of this, obviously they still support, me and my family through and through, but it's cool that I've had the opportunity to support other people that have kind of gone through similar stuff, or just kind of be like, look, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I know like what you're going through is tough.
Sure.
And have that, sense of community. So it's been cool.
Wow. Yeah. That's, man, that's, just imagining the frequency of issues as you were describing, that's got to wear. I can only imagine the wear and tear over those couple years. How that, what that was like is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's tough. So 2016 then, how did the conversation kind of begin with Extra Life? Was the Extra Life team already a thing at that point? And it was, then kind of got realigned to Mason's Little Warriors, or was it made in kind of honor of it?
Yeah, it was, the team already existed. I've been doing Extra Life, I think, since 2014.
Okay.
And I've never, been like Sean on our team, who's just like bringing in tons of cash or anything. But, I do my part for Children's of Alabama because, even before Mason passed, I was like, well, I want to help other kids that go to his hospital and stuff. And so Dave, founded the Good for Gaming team, which is what it was for years. And I don't know if 2014 was the first year. It may have been sooner than that. But after Mason passed, he, approached me and said like, hey, would you be okay with us naming the team after Mason? Because one of my co-hosts on Everyday Gamers, Chris, anytime Mason would get sick and be back in the hospital, he'd be like, we're praying for our littlest warrior. And so Mason kind of got the moniker of, the littlest warrior, because every time he'd go in the hospital, he'd fight it, and then he'd get better and come home. And he was just, tiny and, a rock star. So that's kind of where the name came from, because he was kind of known as the littlest warrior. And so Dave approached me. He's like, would you be okay if we, used Mason as kind of like, the inspiration behind, what our team's trying to accomplish? And I was like, oh, I would love that, because from my perspective, anytime I get to talk about Mason, it keeps his legacy alive. And so I never, want to be like, oh, don't touch on that because it's too painful. I mean, obviously it's painful because, I lost my son. But the fact that I get to talk about like the impression that he left on like thousands and thousands of people is just like really cool. And it's like he's got more reach and influence than I'll probably ever have. But,
it is cool.
It's cool to just see his legacy honored like that.
Yeah. It's a combination of both kind of a memorial and an honor at the same time.
Yeah.
It's very neat. So while you were kind of talking there, I was looking at the team on Extra Life, which is our team page, right? And as I said at the start, which I only realized the other day as well, is that as of this recording, we're number one in the world as a team, and there's 68 awesome. Members now that stream for this team, with several members, of course, already in the thousands of dollars. And it's only beginning of March.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just incredible. So when you think about, the other thing I really like about this Good for Gaming, and what Dave has kind of set up here is, it reached out to a very wide group of people, all kinds of different backgrounds, playing for different reasons, all these other things. And I really appreciate how everyone comes together for that common cause. It's really neat.
Yeah. And, it's neat to see the growth too, because as far as I can remember, every year that we've, done Extra Life, we've gotten more people on the team and have raised more money. And so that's just going all over everywhere, to hospitals all across, not only the US, but, Canada and other places, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I obviously play for the local Kansas City Miracle Children's Network, but yeah, it's great to see. One other thing I wanted to touch on with you is you mentioned kind of the history with gaming and podcasts and everything, which is really cool, by the way, because, gaming podcasts are everywhere now. I mean, obviously I have one, but I mean, there's just tons of them, right? And they've grown exponentially. But you were talking about going back like a decade when, gaming podcasts weren't nearly as popular as they are now, which is cool. Could you touch on, if at all, if gaming had, video games had a significant kind of effect on you at any point in what you were dealing with Mason or afterwards? Did it kind of hold any social aspect or mental health aspect or an escapism aspect, anything like that for you in that way?
Yeah, for sure. I'm part of a Destiny clan called Il Resto, which means the remains in Latin or some language, I think.
Okay.
But basically they started out like, hey, let's just get together so you have people to raid with or whatever. And it grew to like over 60 or 70 people. And, there would be times where, Mason would be in the hospital and I'd be like stuck at home and like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. And so I just hop on Xbox and play with those guys. And it would be a sense of escapism, but it would also be a sense of like, just check up on each other.
Yes.
Like, hey, how are you doing? How's Mason doing? That sort of thing. So,
sure.
I think there's definitely different angles of how gaming can kind of provide an outlet for people. Sometimes it's a social thing and sometimes it is, just kind of a form of mental exercise just to kind of break out of just the darkness of the real world and reality. And so, it's been neat because not only through podcasting, not only through Twitter, and not only through the Destiny clan, like all of those things have kind of allowed me to build relationships with individuals that are rock solid. And I know they've got my back. They know I've got their back. And so there's just kind of this tight knit tapestry of gamers that we all have, one another's back and support each other, like no matter what they need. So,
yeah, that's fantastic. I think that, it's never one-to-one, but very similar stories in the sense of community that gaming can bring, even with people to a degree that you've never met in real life. There's plenty of people I talk to on a daily basis or that I've become sincere friends with over years that I've still never met in real life. We just kind of talk every day or every week and play games together and get to know each other. And it's just, it's a way of bringing people together unlike hardly anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah. 3 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago now, the Destiny clan was like, we should do this at a LAN, just like the old Halo days.
Yeah.
And so we rented a place in North Carolina, either flew or drove there, and probably about 16 of us the first year. The second year, we did it in Philadelphia because we got some guys from Philly. There's
nice.
People from California and New York and Texas, all over the place. And then last year, or I guess the year before last, because COVID kind of canceled plans last year. We, met at some guy's house, one of our clanmates' house, not just some random guy, in North Carolina, and did it there. And just like you're talking about, like you walk into one of these places, you're like, okay, well, I've heard this guy's voice, and we played together and we talk on Discord and stuff, but like I've never met him in real life, and everybody's just like chilling. It's like you've been friends for a decade, and it's awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I know we had kind of talked before we started recording this, like, you had lost your son, you mentioned, and, your situation was completely different from mine.
Yeah.
Granted, we have, the commonality that we both lost a child, which is tragic for anyone, but it also gives me and probably you the perspective of like, everybody's got their own stuff going on. And, while everybody's experience is different, it's all legitimate. And so even if somebody is struggling with being bipolar, or they're struggling with, the loss of their grandparent, even if they were 92, which, happened to me earlier this year. Like, I lost my last living grandparent. Like,
Wow.
Everybody's issues are different, but they're legitimate. And I think that's one of the things that this community and the Extra Life team has really brought to light, is that, like, no matter what you're going through, like, you've got a group of solid people that, will support you through it.
Yeah. That's fantastic perspective, Jay. It's the human experience, right? No matter who you are, where you are, where you come from, all the factors that each of us have in our, that make up our character, one thing remains true, and that's we're going to, experience these types of things in one way or another that impact us. But you're right. I think, and that's a big focal point for what I want to focus on with this conversation and the article and the things we're talking about doing in the future is really focusing on all the different aspects that video games can impact, not just from escapism and community like we talked about, but, I've talked to people who were at one point in their lives suicidal. I've talked to people who, to your point, bipolar, and, my son who I lost was bipolar 1, severe. And so I've learned an awful lot about bipolar and the effects of it and how it functions. And it can be extreme, right? Depression and anxiety and all these different things that people either deal with themselves or deal with from a loved one or someone they know. And there's just, we all deal with things like that. And it's important, in my opinion, to focus on the things that can have a positive impact and bring people together. There's an old George Carlin quote that I was talking to someone about the other day, where he's like, so many people just focus on the things that pull people apart, differences, right? The differences between people. And I think we need as a community, not just in gaming, but in general, really, we need to do a better job of talking about the things that bring us together. So, yeah,
absolutely. And, the neat thing about the Good for Gaming community is, like, myself, Eric, my former Everyday Gamers co-host, Chris, like, when we were podcasting, we're never, like, ashamed about our faith, being Christians and that sort of thing. And then, we have these friends either on Twitter or in Good for Gaming that are like, I'm an atheist. And we're like, okay, we can still be friends. And that's kind of neat in an atmosphere where everyone's like, oh, you didn't vote for my guy? See ya. Oh, you didn't, you don't have my same religious views. Like, okay, well, we can't be friends. Like, it's like we can still, work together, support another, and work toward a common goal without having to can't cancel people because you didn't believe in Jesus, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It's like, that's ridiculous. So
yeah, I think it's it always feels like that gets worse, when in reality, I think honestly we're getting better at it. It just, I don't know, it's a weird time. That's a whole nother discussion we could get into.
We'll do this again sometime.
Yes, but but no, I mean, overall, the point remains is that, we need to focus on what brings us together. Because no matter your beliefs, like you were just alluding to, all of us have common threads. And in one way or another, we share similar experienes. So
and it's hard to find somebody that's like, we shouldn't help sick kids. What are you talking about? So.
Yeah. And that's, one of the things I've really loved about Extra Life is they're great community support. They do fantastic work. And it just, again, it brings people together for a common cause. It's a no-brainer, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like if you, whether or not you've experienced this personally or not, obviously nobody wants to experience it. And so for the people that are unfortunate enough to have to go through these types of things, yes, we should all be helping them. It's the common good, right? It's a no-brainer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and having been on, like, the receiving end of, like, what I'd call sacrificial charity, where it's like, okay, people were giving me money to pay medical bills or funeral expenses, and I know, like, that dude got laid off last week, so just seeing how some people were just going above and beyond, and then having the opportunity, like, okay, well, maybe I have the opportunity to help somebody else. And yeah, I'm not going to be able to go buy, Cyberpunk on day one or whatever. I can wait till it drops to 50% or something. I can at least, help somebody out. So
Yep.
I think when people, are on both ends of it, the receiving end, and like some guys do like $5 Fridays. The first 2 people to respond to this tweet, I'm going to donate $5 to their Extra Life campaign. Like that may be a drop in the bucket to them. It may be, kind of might sting a little bit because sometimes folks got to eat. But it's neat to see like the people that are on the receiving end of that, like how thankful they are for something as small as a $5 donation.
Yeah. It can go a long way.
Yeah.
And I'm in a generally comfortable position, fortunate position. And so that's allowed me to kind of do more in that area, what I would consider more, right? And that's why there's such a big focal point for me from a charitable aspect in the things we do at our site too. Yeah. Because it's not just Extra Effect. We do work with Able Gamers and Special Effect as well. Both. There's a lot of good companies out there doing good work. So it's nice to be able to kind of spread that. But yeah, you're exactly right. So, but yeah, man, it's been a fun conversation. I'm glad I got to chat with you about this. Like I said, we've never actually talked, and I knew the story of Mason, but I didn't know obviously the details you gave me today. So, it's nice to kind of understand a little more of what we're playing for on an annual basis, and or the background of it, I should say. So is there anything, before we kind of head out, anything else you want to add about that story, Extra Life, any other thing you want to touch on?
I mean, just the people that will see this that know me already, I just want to thank them again. I can thank them on Twitter, but they've dug me out of some deep holes, not only on the financial side of things, but just on like the mental side of things, and like having somebody to talk to, and having people in my corner, having people that know that like they've had a decade to get to know me. Obviously, we're kind of talking for the first time, but like the people that have known me for years and years and kind of walked this journey through from start to finish, and then till as far as it goes, like just the appreciation I have for having those types of people in my life is just amazing.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So good shout out. Nothing I can add there. I mean, it's all good stuff. So yeah, that's great. I hope that some of the other community, whether it be for Mason's Little Warriors or just the Good for Gaming group, who similar story, right? Haven't gotten to meet you or understand where the Mason's Little Warriors come from. So we'll see this and we'll share it out, and hopefully it'll give them some perspective as well.
Yeah, and I'll get Dave to get us the Discord link, and if people want to join the Discord, they can. Obviously it's not like we're trying to poach any people, because everybody's got a Discord nowadays. So yeah, but if they want to just get involved with the charity aspect of it, they can. And obviously we're doing Extra Life again this year. So anybody watching this, we would love to have you on the team. The more the merrier. Yeah,
and so it's a good segue to what I was going to say at the end, which is, this is just the start of a full-on initiative from Season Gaming called The Good in Gaming, which is going to be a permanent tab on our site going forward with items such as this. So obviously for this specific video, we'll add in the Extra Life team page, we'll add in the Discord, all the information that we've talked about will be there for you. But it's going to be working with groups like this, and just other people who are doing charitable work, who are doing focusing on the positive aspects of gaming in the community. So I'm super excited about it. It's something I'm passionate about, and I'm because I run an outlet, and because I'm involved in a lot of gaming communities, there's a lot of negativity or bickering out there, in the gaming community too. And it's like, we need to rise above that stuff. So let's put a bigger spotlight on the things we should be talking about more.
Yeah. So. Well, man, I appreciate you using your platform to get that message across. Cause like you said, you go on Twitter and it's people like, oh, this is crap and you're trash and all this other stuff. So, having some place where people can be like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air.
It's what we hope to be. It's what we hope to be. So anyway, Jay, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no worries, dude. And obviously we'll be in touch in the future. For everyone who's tuning in, watching this later, thanks for watching Industry Perspectives. As always, I know this is a little different from the other conversations we've had, but it highlights, like I just said, the new initiative. And I hope you check everything out that will be coming in the near future. So thank you. Until next time.